All right, let's read the little intro. Functions help us understand how one quantity changes with respect to another. This is especially important when our money is involved. Today we're going to study the value of a stock in a large sportswear corporation over a 1 month period. The table shows the data for the value of a stock on the 10th day of February. So instead of saying X, we're using the variable T for time, which represents what day we're on. S of T is the value of that stock. So is there a linear relationship between the day and the value of the stock? And how do you know? So how could we know if something is linear? This is a review. We have equal changes in the input. Right, we're going up by 3, by 3, by 3. They're all plus 3 here. So in order for this to be linear, equal changes in the input must result in equal changes of the output. So from $2.30 to $2.50 and 70 cents, that means I went up $20.70. Then from $2.50 and 70 cents to $2.19 and 20 cents, I went down by $31.50. And I can tell right now that's not linear. Okay? So if you had to explain, how do you know?
Because it's not equal changes in the Y versus the X.
For every equal change in the input does not result in equal changes of the output. So here's the way they say it. They say the value of the stock changes. Oh my gosh. By different amounts. Is this in the bathroom? That's going to get old real fast. On each 3-day period. Y'all read all that? That's awful. No, the value of the stock changes by different amounts on each 3-day period. A simpler way to say that is there's no common first difference, right? The first difference is not constant. Right? Is there a quadratic relationship? So to test quadratic, we need to check the second difference. So, all right, right here I've got to do more work. Is it okay if I erase this here?
Because I don't know how to find the second difference.
Well, you have to find more of these values. So then from 2:19.20 to 1:57.10, how much did I go down by? I could maybe do that in my head, but okay, I guess I'll just do it then. $62.10. And then what did I do the next time? Then I went down by 57.14 is 71.10. Okay, so I'm still looking. All the first differences are kind of random. Now let's look at this second difference. So as I go from $20.70 to negative $31.50, that's going down by $52.20. So this is negative 52.20. Can you guys see that? I'm running out of room. I can't wait till I get my Apple Pencil back. It can be a lot neater. And then what's this one do? From negative 31.50 to negative 62.10? That's going to be negative $30.60. Does everybody know how I'm finding these values? I'm just subtracting y2 minus y1, y2 minus y1. So I got negative $52.20 and negative $30.60. They're not the same. So there's no constant second difference. Right? Is everybody? So is it quadratic? No. No common second difference.
So this would be like piecewise function?
No.
I think I missed the name of the piecewise function. I got it. It was on 2.1.
I mean, we could make it maybe into a piecewise function, but that's not what this one's going to be. Right here, they've graphed this. So does that look like it's in pieces if you look at the graph? No, it's just a curved.
You can make it into pieces, but
You could. That's why I said we could represent this as piecewise, but it wouldn't be the correct.
it's just too saucy.
But if you made it look piecewise, you'd basically have a line from here to here, or you could do a parabola from here to here, and then a new parabola from there to there. So, I mean, we could turn it piecewise, but it's not going to be great. A, estimate the first time the value of the stock starts to decrease. So, when does the value of the stock start to decrease?
$2.5.
At $2.5. Have
No,
you learned
2.5
anything
days.
that we've tried to? Okay.
2.5 days.
So we need to be talking about in terms of the x value, right? Because it's a function, so every input has one output. It starts to decrease. Right here, it reaches its peak, and then the y starts to go down, right? So it'd be right after this peak, which does appear to be somewhere at like 2.5 days, maybe 3 days. Let's see what they say on here. They say between day 2 and 3. Okay? We don't know for sure that it's at a half.
Teachers, some of the Plainview seniors are attending a short field trip to Northeast this morning for a college and career fair at the Lyceum. And so at this time, you guys can load the bus by the lunchroom if you are planning to go on that field trip. The list of students is in your Google Classroom, okay? The students should be back here around 9:30 this morning. So as of this time, you guys can go load the bus by the lunchroom if you are going on the field trip to Northeast. Thank you.
Okay, so when I look again, does the value of the stock ever reach $0?
Yes. No. Yes. Yes. At approximately 17 days. It has the 0. It's touching. Oh, 18 days.
No, it's not 18.
It is 18. I would say yes. At 18, there's a little stuff.
I don't think it's touching. I think that's the shade from the
I think it's touching, guys.
So if you're running down the sideline, you want them to call that out of bounds?
No.
Is that out? Were you out?
If you touch your sideline, then yes.
No, that's
Did
the
you touch?
shade. That's their shadow.
Instant replay, if I see
If my
that.
foot is that close to the sideline and they call me out of bounds, everybody's like, what?
Are you kidding?
Yeah, but if they don't call
So
me
it's not supposed to actually touch. I can see the argument for it does. But if you think about what does that mean? If the stock was worth $0, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's free.
That they're bankrupt. That anybody could go get the stock for free, which
There's some of these
if they went bankrupt, that's fine, but I wouldn't expect to see that rebound the next day so wonderfully.
Wait, so why did they make it so cheap?
They didn't choose to make it cheap. That's what the market dictated it was worth. That's how free market works.
People who
Have you
bought
not
on
learned this in
day
history about the stock market and we're a free market?
Alright. I bought some Doge coin one time.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you don't know much then.
People who bought on day 18 are now rich.
That's correct.
Something they say.
That's correct.
No,
They timed the market well.
People that bought day two.
People who bought day 2 they made.
They did okay. They had to ride the wave.
Now
This is-
day 18 they were thinking, holy crap.
Yeah, I made a huge mistake.
And then it just.
And then it wasn't a mistake.
and then by a day.
Then they announced the iPhone. No, I'm just kidding. It's way back in the day. So does the stock ever reach $0? No. And you guys are all over this. How did you know it was never $0? Or why did you think it did reach $0? What did you guys say? Yes, and that's called
Bankruptcy.
an X intercept. So, yeah, or a 0. So if you said, yes, it reached $0 because there's an X intercept at 18, then that's fine. But they say, no, it doesn't touch. So if we're going to answer, no, it didn't touch, then how do we know?
There is no X intercept.
No X intercept.
But there really is, though. Hey,
Yeah, there's none.
how do they expect us not to?
Because with this ultra HD paper that we have,
Yeah.
we should.
Pixelation. Take a computer science course. C, on which day during the 28-day period is the value of the stock the highest?
28.
It's on day 28. So the last day, which was day 28.
Stacking penny stocks, man.
Penny stocks. Sound like you have had some stock market talk before.
Yeah, I watched Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, God. So no, so you just, okay, never mind.
Dogecoin was a penny stock.
It wasn't a stock.
It was a crypto.
Crypto's not a stock. Crypto's a great way to lose all your money. Anyways, if you want financial advice, I'm not a certified agent.
Dude, Ethereum Classic did me right, though.
Okay.
I mean, this.
How much you made?
I put 1,000 in it, it got up to 11,000.
Did you sell it then?
And we pulled.
Okay.
We pulled it out. It was mine.
How much tax you have to pay on it? Capital gains. Okay. I'm gonna assume that was a short-term investment that you bought and sold within the same year. So you'd have to pay a capital gains tax when you filed your taxes, which would be close to 30%. It may be
30%.
of the 11 of what he made. So he made 10,000, so he would have to pay 3,000, roughly. I think I have to look up what capital gains tax is.
They just can't let you make any money without.
They can, but not huge amounts very quickly. They don't like that. If you buy and sell within the same year.
But, like, taxes are the most absurd piece of crap ever.
Yeah, I hate roads too. I hate roads too.
Hit roads.
Yeah. You hate what?
I'll walk.
Just give me my money.
Horse and buggy. That's even worse with no road. A horse and buggy. Can you imagine bumping all over the place?
Like, you have to walk a mile.
Anyways, second question. What's the value of the stock on this day? On day 28. What's the value?
500.
Yes. It's approximately...
350, Jack.
No. No.
Oh, we seem to have an argument here.
It's not
It's
350.
not.
It is.
500.
It is about 500.
No, it's not. It
Wow.
goes up halfway.
Ken, what are you looking at?
Yeah, I was about to say, you kind of,
Ken is not
as you can see 400 right there, it's past that.
It's Jack said 500.
It's about 500. It's,
I'd say it's probably
It's
450.
I like 450.
I meant 450.
Uh, these people said it's approximately $500, and I disagree.
You're taking 7.
It does say approximately 500, but I think it's definitely closer to 450. Okay, so we're going to label some parts of this graph. Okay, so when you guys look at this, what are some key points that you guys see?
Probably like
The starting, the y-intercept.
25,200.
So the y-intercept at 25,200. Why is that a key point?
Because it looks good.
Oh, so this is a nice point because it's on a crosshair.
Yes.
Okay. I agree with you, but that's not the things we're looking for here. We're looking more for key characteristics.
Maybe what if we go 2.5, 250? Because it's a peak.
Okay, so we do have a peak right here.
What if we go,
Shut up, Jack.
I like that.
what if we go flat?
The minimum.
13,
18,
120?
maybe like 0.000.
That's the point of inflection.
Where?
13, 120.
I don't think it's quite at 13. I like what you're looking for though. What is a point of inflection?
Where it switches.
Where it switches. So
I would say more of 10.
if I look at this here, this is concave down. Let's see, when does it start becoming concave up? It's definitely concave up here. Right? This is concave up.
What is the first one? 12, 120?
So I got to figure out, where does it switch?
12, 100.
You think it's at 12?
10.
Yeah, I think it's really close to 10.
Yes.
That's where it
You
switches.
didn't even think, you don't know when point inflection is.
Yes, I do. It's when it switches from concave up to concave down.
So that's an important point. So, and there's one more point that's important on here that we didn't talk about, and that is,
End point.
Maximum.
the maximum.
Yeah.
So, how many maximums do we have?
What?
How many maximums do we have?
1.
Okay, but then there's also that peak. Would you call that peak a max?
That's a trough.
There's a peak as well as a trough. Look at day 2.5. That's a peak.
Is it called a trough?
The one at day 18 would be a trough.
Opposite.
Oh. What is a peak and a trough is like?
They're inverses. Yeah. So this graph has two maximums. It has two maximums. Right here, the very last point, this is called an absolute maximum. Any guesses as to why?
Because it's the absolute maximum.
That's right. Because it doesn't get any higher than that, ever. At any point on the graph, that's the highest that it gets. So it's an absolute maximum.
If we went to day 29, it might, though.
Yeah, but we didn't. So on this graph, luckily we were in February,
It might crash.
on a non-leap year. This blue point, there was also a maximum. We can't call it an absolute maximum because the graph gets higher than that.
Peak.
It's called a relative maximum. Because remember, you put up goalposts and you wanted to find like the x-intercept between these goalposts. Or you wanted to find the max value between these goalposts. Right? You remember that? It wasn't the absolute max on the whole graph, but in its neighborhood. And the things that it's close to, that is a maximum still.
Point of inflection.
This is like Sand Mountain and Lookout Mountain. Right? We're comparing the two.
Deep down in the depths where I live.
Valley Head? Not Valley Head. Could be Valley Head. Pine Ridge.
It's a good spot.
No, it's not.
It is if you like flooding.
Orange is not a real place. It's called Fort Payne. I don't believe that
You
it is
live in,
actually.
you live in how?
Rainsville East.
I live in. We're the in between. No.
Yes.
You live in
Austin?
14, I got uninsured little.
No. You're out.
Just working.
What about Chevy's? We just ignoring Chevy's like it doesn't even
Kicks
exist.
off from that. That one doesn't exist.
Okay.
That's an actual
Chevy's
city.
in. Yeah.
Chevy's had a post office before Rainsville did.
No, Chevy's is not an actual city. I didn't.
This is
even know.
right here. This is Chevy's. That's
We're
where the
in
school's
Chevy's, right?
basically. Yeah,
Yeah, we get a plain view of Chevy's and Rainsville.
that's correct. That's why we're Plainview, because we're in plain view of both. They were arguing what to name it.
Chevy. It was
Coach Pruitt.
Yeah, Coach Pruitt told us that.
Well, that's the correct story. That's correct.
He was probably there.
He was not there. He was not
He was
there.
at the council meeting.
He was not there. He would have been alive when it happened, but he was not there. I think it was the first principal ever, which would be Israel. I think Willard Israel was the first principal. Mhm.
I feel like that's a president.
It's him. He was on top of the roof of the old schoolhouse before it burnt.
This
Our
didn't
school
used to be
burned?
here?
When you say this, do you mean this building or are you talking about that building?
This building.
This building was built in 2000. 99, 2000.
Wait, our school burned down and got hit by a tornado?
Uh-huh.
It's been there.
That's right.
I feel it.
Well, the one that burned down's not here.
Where was it?
Right, it was right here, but it's not here.
Wait,
It's
so
burnt.
how did it burn down?
I don't know that.
Yeah, but
I don't know how. That's a good question. Ask Miss Ayers. Ask Miss Ayers. I don't know. Miss Ayers would know.
Did somebody commit arson?
Ask Miss Ayers and let me know. I really don't know.
Yeah, a little devious.
Okay, refocus, Cody. So we talked about this point that I have labeled in black. This is the point of inflection. And then what about the trough?
It's just called trough, right?
No, what would we call that? It is a minimum. Is it a relative minimum or the absolute minimum?
Absolute.
Absolute.
It could actually be classified as both. So because it's both, we would call it an absolute minimum.
Jump the goose.
What do we call that, purple point?
A point. It's a point that you thought was of purpose, but it's really not because you're not
It's
smart
gotta be a
enough.
purpose.
Point on a crosshair. That's what I call it.
It's a good point.
I do. I use those sometimes, but this is not a time that we want to talk about it. But you're right. Sometimes we do like those points
It's
that
literally just
meet
so
at a
good.
T and on a crosshair.
It's not that good.
I thought it was something.
Okay, the next question. The rate of change of S is increasing or decreasing on the interval between 3 and 9. And how can you tell on the graph? So the rates of change. The rates of change are decreasing. How can you tell?
It's going down.
It hasn't.
What do you mean it's going down? You can't say it's going down. They're going to think like you're trying to fight them on the AP test. It's going down. What's going down?
It hasn't passed the point.
The slope is going down.
What do you mean slope?
The slope of the line.
Tangent line.
The A rock
So
is
the
going
slopes of tangent lines would be decreasing. That's the best one I've heard yet. But that's not the way they're going to want it explained either. But you're right. But you're explaining it like a calculus person. And we want you to explain it like a pre-cal person that doesn't really know what tangent lines are yet. Even though you do, because that's the way I think about it. That's why I explain it. So what's another way you could tell that it's decreasing?
It's switching
What do you mean it's switching?
from
It's
from
from maximum to
getting
minimum. It's point of
the one that's concave down is going
That's the word. It's concave down. What happens when the graph is concave down? Rates of change
are going down.
are decreasing. Right? Instantaneous rates of change are always decreasing when it's concave down. So that's the way they're going to want it explained, is using concavity. And if you remember, I told you I was going to try to stress that a little bit more, because that's not the way my brain thinks about it, but that's the way they're going to want you to explain it. It's decreasing. How can you tell?
Concave up, concave
graph is concave down. Using the table, any questions on 3? 4, using the table to calculate the AROC of S on the interval from 3 to 6 and on the interval from 6 to 9. Were you correct? So how could I find the AROC between 3 and 6?
You could do the 2 points, and then you
Uh-huh.
do
The
the little fraction thing.
With- slope formula, which has a fancier name that's called the,
Distance formula.
not distance formula.
Slope.
It is the slope formula. That's what it is. But if
Y2 minus y1 over x1.
x2 minus...
minus y x.
Oh, gosh. We've got bigger problems. We don't know the... So there's x2 minus x1. What's y2?
Y2 would be 1 or 2, 19, 20.
Okay. And y1?
250.7.
The other word I was looking for could be called a difference quotient.
Oh,
Right.
I was close.
Subtractions and then division. All right.
I have a question, Scoot.
Uh-huh.
What's your chest ELO?
Not that high.
How good you have a chest?
You have a number?
Yes. Like really, really good is like 2,000.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I'm nowhere close to that.
Are
Did
you
you
like
get negative 3?
1,000?
Probably not. I'm not studied it enough. You got what?
-10.5.
So because we're talking about money, let's go negative $10.50.
6.
So the AROC, the average rate of change from 3 to 6 is negative 1050. Now we said the AROCs should be decreasing, right? So when I check from 6 to 9, I expect for it to be less than this number, right? So let's check from 6 to 9 and let's find that AROC.
You get negative 10.5.
They did.
Negative.
That's correct.
Because,
So you're in debt.
no, yeah, that just means that the slope is negative. It's not that you're going into debt. If you keep going past your...
Technically,
That's correct. We're not in, okay. Sure. But if you bought it at a certain price and then it's now worth a lesser price, that's not in debt. You did take a loss.
Just means it's going down, not you.
if that was all your money,
You took a loss, but you're still not in debt.
sure.
You follow?
You don't owe any more than you already paid.
Right.
What if
I'm just not worth as much as I used to be.
What if you took a loan out for that money? that you-
Okay, well then you were in debt to start with. That's why you don't invest with loans. That's a terrible idea. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but if you need, that's not a good idea.
People do that.
Yes, people do that junk. So stupid. I'm gonna make it. I know what stocks to invest in. I'm gonna make it rich. So let me take out a loan, put a lot of money on it.
And then it goes down, and then you
Ruin your life. That's what that's called.
I put mine.
What did we get on the second one?
The wolf was old 35.
Negative $20.70.
That's what the wolf of old 35 would do. Not the wolf of Wall Street.
Is that why it took him so long to get that road built and fixed?
Because Jack lives on old 35. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, I would have to go all the way around. You had to go close to my house.
So, for the first 20 days of February, we want to use the graph to estimate the day on which the value of the stock changed the fastest. So on the first 20 days, what day did the stock change the fastest? So how are we telling changes? How are we telling change? If I look at it graphically,
I'm gonna have to stay on day 24.
it's not on the first 20 days. I appreciate day 24 as an option, but that's not going to be correct because it's outside the first 20 days. I don't know if you counted.
24 is really getting close to what's on the road. You can change for that.
Maybe day 11.
So how are we telling how much the stock is changing by?
By my eyes.
The slope of the tangent line, right? That's a representation of an instantaneous rate of change. So I'm looking for the most extreme tangent line. The tangent line with the most extreme slope, whether it be positive or negative. It's going to be at the point of inflection, where the graph switches from concave down to concave up, is going to be the most extreme tangent line, the most extreme slope of a tangent line. And so it would be approximately day 10. And it doesn't tell us to tell how we know, but we know because it is the point of inflection on that interval.